Can you just explain why you think Jake is up for this challenge and he's the right guy to pitch for you tomorrow night?
Well, Christy, when we were getting ready for the postseason, one of the things, when we sat our rotation down, we felt that he was pitching the best of anybody. And, that's nothing to take anything away from Noah, how well he was throwing, or Harv. We just thought this guy was pitching the best. So if anybody was going to pitch 2 games in this series for us, it would be Jake deGrom. So it's worked out that way. Fortunately, we didn't have to bring him back on short rest. He hasn't done it, and I was uncomfortable doing it. So we're lucky he's got an extra day.
Right, and Adam right in front.
2 questions. The first one, did you sense the mood on the flight out here this time any different than coming out here for Game 1?
Adam, last night when the game was over, and I don't know when you guys went in there what the reception was in the clubhouse, but, we're pretty positive still. Our guys are upbeat. Nobody wants to fly all the way across the country for one game, but I think that, we're as excited as we were the other night. Obviously, the first game was really impactful. Now we know this is really a huge game for us, and like I said, you talked to the guys today in the clubhouse before we left, and they're excited. And
second topic, you only faced a righty once in this series. That was granted the first time. Would you expect not necessarily the order, but the same players other than Flores for Tejada, meaning Conforto in left field?
Yep.
And over here again to the right, microphone's on its way.
Terry, what's it feel like to have the season boiled down to one win or lose game?
Well, I've looked at it this way. Obviously, this is where you want to get in postseason. And anytime you're down to win or lose, it's a tough situation. There's a lot of pressure on both teams. But I tell you, I'm so proud of the way our guys made it through the season. This to me is gravy. We're going to go out. We're going to play real hard. But they can't take away what these guys accomplished all year long. You can't take that away from them, no matter if we lose tomorrow night or we come out on top. We're very, very happy with what we've accomplished, and we'll be prepared tomorrow.
And next question for Terry. Up to the left, far left.
Terry, deGrom was one of the elite pitchers throughout the season. Did he show you something with the composure, the mettle that he showed in Game 1?
Yeah, he did. He really did. He was very, very excited, very pumped up in Game 1. And I think and I'm sure he'll probably tell you, once he got settled in, he kind of and pitched an outstanding ball game. I think now he's a little more comfortable. So hopefully, the first few innings are a little easier than they were the first game for him. But I really, I'm real confident he's going to go out and pitch another great game. We just got to get him some runs to work with.
And to the left, or the right.
Just because it is Game 5, how tight are you with deGrom and just getting guys out of the bullpen if anything were to happen in terms of the game? So,
well, we've got. Obviously, this is one of those games when you're not in this situation where everybody's available. You're looking at. Noah's going to be down there tomorrow. Matt, if we need them, they'll all be there. So we'll just see how the game's moving along and what the matchups are going to be and who would be our best options. But there'll be everybody we got in the pen.
Sorry, Bob, you said Matt. You said
yes.
Yesterday he's not available. He wasn't available.
Well, I talked to him on the plane today, and he said he'll be ready. So if we need him, he'll be out there.
Terry, just to follow up on that, how much do you have those guys? And then a second question, just you guys have faced so much adversity this year. How confident are you that they can be resilient again tomorrow in a tough spot?
Well, we showed it the other night. We showed it coming off the loss here last week with all the drama that took place on the field that night. We came back the next day in New York and played great. So we had a tough game the other night against arguably the best pitcher in baseball. So it's one of those things you got to gather yourself and get ready for tonight. We got to face another great one tomorrow, and that's the big leagues. So I think we're going to be resilient enough to go out and play a good baseball game. We like our rotation. We like our staff, and we like our lineup. We just got to go get some good balls, good pitches to hit, and hopefully we hit them where nobody's standing.
And then Noah and Harv Harvey, how much do you have?
Oh, I'm, again, we're not going to, if I'll tell you, if Jake gets in trouble in the second inning, which would be a shock to me, we're talking about guys only going 1 or 2 innings tops anyway, because again, we're in the National League, the pitcher's got to hit, so you're not looking at somebody going 3 or 4 innings like you would maybe in the American League.
And all the way in the back right?
Terry, what do you think about the manner in which your lineup has performed in this series to this point?
Well, we've got some guys who are struggling, Mike. I mean, everybody does. If everybody was hitting, we wouldn't be still playing Game 5. So, we got to get Lucas going. There's no doubt about that. He's a big piece of the lineup in the middle of the batting order. You're looking at, even though David's averages now, and he's getting on base. So, he's got some walks. He's got 2 big RBIs. We just, as I've said many times, our lineup is, if we spread out the offense, we win games. We win a lot of games. And right now we've got to have that tomorrow. We've got to have, 1 through 8 for sure, produce some runs for us.
And right here in front, Adam.
Not to rehash the whole thing, but if Matt went to you in Cincinnati and said before Cincinnati and said what he said, and then he said what he said about being available for the bullpen for Game 5, does that whole thing resolve itself in a very favorable way compared to where it was?
Yeah, but we're going to be smart about it. Adam, we're not going to be foolish and, go right to Matt Harvey if Jake's in trouble in the second inning. So I think we got to be wise enough to know that, this would be the first time he's ever done something like this, too. We're talking about 3 young pitchers who've never pitched in the postseason, and now you're asking them to do things that they have never done before as far as pitching out of the bullpen. So, we're gonna be smart about the decisions we make.
Well, I just meant from Matt's perspective, because he was getting a lot of flack in September from low back, to twice come to you and say, hey.
Yeah, he wants to pitch. He never made him. He never. I don't think he ever shied away from the fact he wanted to pitch in postseason. And we're here now, and he's ready to take the ball when we need to. Bill?
Terry, 2 things. First, why do you think it's getting harder these days to identify 7th, 8th, 9th inning guys in the way maybe the Royals have? I know you guys have struggled a little bit. The Dodgers have struggled a little bit. Why is it so volatile?
That's a great question, Billy. That's a legitimate question. I think, obviously, when you're looking at the Kansas City side, they got 3 power guys that they go 7, 8, 9. To find 3 power guys to be able to do that is an oddity. I mean, we've got 3 guys we like a lot. One guy's a real power guy. The other guys are strike-throwing guys who need a little finesse. So they're different guys. But most of the time when you've got guys that can throw in, kind of like the Dodgers, they got, with Baez and Hatcher, and then you go to Kenley. They've got 3 power arms down at the back end of their bullpen where, that's just a strange thing to get, and it's hard to get those guys because you look up and a lot of those guys are closers someplace else. Teams are grabbing your 7th inning guy to be their closer on other clubs.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, and I don't mean this facetiously at all, given how well Bartolo has taken to what you've asked him to do, could you see him pitching another 5, 6, 7 years in that role? It's all command.
It's all command. You're absolutely right. The one thing, Bill, I think with Bartolo is that you got to accept the fact that he's not a strikeout guy. And so when you're looking at the back end of a bullpen, there's a lot of situations where you need to get a strikeout, where he's gonna make him swing the bat. And so there's no reason why Bartolo Colon couldn't pitch a few more years, and even as a starter, he's just he's got one of those arms that's durable. We've seen it here in the postseason. Throws every day. But that's going to be I think it all depends on how the legs hold up, because that's such a huge part of pitching. And when you've thrown all the innings he's thrown, boy, I'll tell you, he's a marvel, no doubt.
And right here in the
Well,
front
just you
right.
mentioned some of those guys struggling in the lineup. And what has it meant to have Murphy performing like he has? I mean, obviously he's had the 2 good.
Well, he's gotten big hits, and that's Dan. But we've got Murph's done a tremendous. He's had a good postseason. He's gotten big hits for us, especially home runs. We've got to give him some help. We've got Grandy's been getting on, and you look at the other day. I mean, we talk about, and it was Clayton, so you kind of throw it off to the side. But we had one guy in scoring position, so that just tells you how well the Dodgers have pitched. And like I said the other night after the game was over, we knew when we clinched and the Dodgers clinched, and we knew we were going to play the Los Angeles Dodgers. We knew what we were facing, that we were going to face Clayton twice and Zach twice, and it was not going to be easy. So, as good an offensive club as we think we might have, It's the old adage that has been used many times. Good pitching stops good hitting. And it'll always be that way. That's why you've got to work so hard to create some offense against those guys.
And in the right center?
If you've got a lead late, could you see yourself using Noah out of the bullpen there in the 7th or 8th?
I can see it, yeah.
And
Terry,
Noah?
with Jake, he's obviously has great numbers no matter what the situation, but coming off of a loss this year, he's been exceptionally good. Have you noticed a difference in him in those situations, kind of the classic ace stopper mentality?
That's a great question for him because he only knows what his thought process is. But the good ones step up when they know the team needs them. They just rise to the occasion. They know that they're on the stage. They know they've got to carry their club for 7 innings and keep them in games. And he has the ability to do that. He is you look at the demeanor, laid back, great smile. When he's on that mound, he's fierce. And I've seen a lot of reactions when he's come off that field after a bad outing. The anger in his, you can see it, you can feel it. So he's a competitive guy. So that's why we kind of like the situation he's in tomorrow night.